Welcome to Film at 50, a podcast that celebrates semi-centennials in the world of cinema. I'm your host, Brian Rowe, and I'm very excited to welcome Brandon Siri back to the podcast today for the special bonus episode celebrating the 25th anniversary of Independence Day in the summer movies of 1996. How are we doing, Brandon?
I'm doing great, Brian. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks so much for being back. Can you believe it's been 25 years since the summer movies of 96?
Yeah, no, it's funny. You revisit the list and it's like, has there been a better summer since? You recognize every single movie that came out that summer. And it's like, you've even watched some of them recently, not even knowing it. Like, it's an incredible year.
That was a big summer for me, for sure. I mean, like the summer of 96, I was 11 years old. We were both 11, right? Going on 12.
Mm-hmm.
I was closer to 12 than you were. But that was like my first big summer of movie watching would have been like 93, like the summer of Jurassic Park. But when I think back on the summer of 93, I don't think I can think of another major movie from 93 like that summer. I just think of Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I would agree.
And then
Jurassic Park,
94, 94, I remember Forrest Gump and The Lion King and Speed, which I didn't see in the theater. I wish I had. But that summer I saw True Lies in the theater. That was my first R-rated film in a movie theater. Do you remember what your first R-rated movie was?
Mine was Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, really? That late?
I think so. Wasn't that like around 96?
No, Saving Private Ryan was July of 98.
No.
So I feel like, that we were like 13 when that came out.
Yeah, no, that's too late then.
I feel like you would have seen something before that.
I just specifically remember seeing Saving Private Ryan. Like, oh yeah, I saw this. I don't know. Who knows what it was then?
Yeah. And then summer of 95, I remember Apollo 13. I can't even think of another one. But then you get to summer of 96, 25 years ago. And I mean, I wrote down nine films that mean a lot to me today that I saw in a theater that summer. So I would say summer of 96 was my first like big movie summer, like for me, like the one that really meant a lot. Like I feel like at age 11, like that's when we were really getting into movies. And boy, we had a great summer at the movies that year.
Looking back at summer of 96, I remember every experience at the theater too. Like I noticed Spy Hard's on here, right?
Spy Hard, I saw Leslie
that. Nielsen. I remember seeing that at like the Old Town Mall. It was like, the most ghetto of all of our theaters. And I remember seeing it. I'm pretty sure I saw it there twice.
So you saw Spy Hard twice?
Oh, I loved all those films. Those were great.
Spy Hard for me was a big disappointment because I loved the Naked Gun trilogy so much. I found Spy Hard not as funny as those. I mean, it had a couple moments, but Spy Hard was like it was spoofing all those big movies a little bit too hard without any real jokes, like the Pulp Fiction spoof. Like they're just dancing, and that's the joke. So it's like, okay.
Oh yeah, no, the film hasn't aged well. There's no reason to ever go back and watch it again. But when you're 11. The bar is a lot lower.
Yeah. We did see Entrapment twice in one weekend back in 99. So yeah, we would go see anything, even more than one.
Oh, yeah. Just to do stuff.
So I thought we'd start. So we're going to go through like the big films of summer 96 between May and August, because this will be the only 25th anniversary episode of the summer on these movies. I'm not going to do one for Independence Day and for Twister and for some of these others. We'll just do this one. But I thought we'd start by talking about Independence Day. That was the biggest movie of 96. I looked up, what does it say on Wikipedia? It made like 800 plus million worldwide. So it was a huge, huge hit. And I remember being really excited for Independence Day. Like I remember there was the Super Bowl TV spot in January, and it just gave a little tease. And I was like, ooh, what's this? This looks kind of interesting. And then they marketed that really well. I remember seeing it. So I believe it opened on July 2nd. Is that right? Or the 3rd?
I saw it on July 2nd. I remember because the movie starts off and it tells you it's July 2nd.
Yeah.
I remember you're like, oh, that's today.
Yeah.
Wow.
I still remember to this day, like walking in, I remember there was a huge line for it, but I think the theater I saw it at, I was still living in Roseville, California at the time, just a few miles outside of Sacramento. I moved to Reno, Nevada in August of 96. So this was like my last movie summer in California before I moved to Nevada. And I remember going to a big multiplex for Independence Day, and I think it was playing like every 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to wait in line that long, but you could like feel the anticipation and the energy. Like as the movie started, you were like, okay, this is going to be special. Even though Siskel and Ebert had given it 2 thumbs down on their show, which I'd watched before, I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I'm watching the movie like this is amazing. That was such a great movie for 11-year-olds. Would you agree with that?
Well, it started its own genre. Okay, that was like a new genre, an ensemble cast with massive destruction.
Yep.
And again, he's tried to recreate it numerous times.
Yeah,
Other
Roland Emmerich, the director,
yeah.
right?
And nobody's ever gotten even close to that. Like if you ask me what the sequel was about, I've seen it. I don't even know. But the first one, it's like every scene is just really fantastic, incredibly memorable.
Yeah, the sequel came out, I want to say in the summer of 2016. So 20 years later, there was the sequel. And I think the big problem with that was I believe Will Smith was coming back for the sequel. And then like at the last minute, he dropped out. So they had to rewrite the script very fast. And they had a release date, like it had to come out in summer of 2016. So I think they kind of rushed it. And you could tell like something was off in the sequel. But that happens. That happened with Dumb and Dumber 2. Some of these sequels, 20 years later, sequels to beloved films from the 90s just don't work out very well.
Yeah.
The original's great. I mean, like it's one of those, like if it's on TV, I'll watch the rest of it. It's just like, it's easily watchable. And part of that is the charm of its cast. It's not just the special effects.
Yeah.
You have Will Smith at the very beginning of his film career. Before this, his other big movie before this was Bad Boys, which came out in 95. And then this is still before Men in Black. That's 97. So like this was like his first like really big movie. And he is a blast in this. Like he's clearly having the time of his life. And then I had been familiar with Jeff Goldblum, of course, as I'm sure you were with after Jurassic Park. And I believe by summer 96, I had seen The Fly, which is one of my favorite movies. So I was really on board the Jeff Goldblum train. And then he's fantastic in this. I think he's great. And then Bill Pullman. This was like the time of Bill Pullman right after While You Were Sleeping. And one of the 10 worst movies I've seen in my life, and that's Mr. Wrong. Also came out in 96, starring Ellen DeGeneres.
Can we talk about Randy Quaid for a sec, though?
Randy Quaid. I wrote his name down.
California. The next governor of California had an amazing summer of 96. Let's just admit he had a couple of films.
Yes. Randy Quaid is in this and in Kingpin, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Was he in a third? Was he in a third film? I think it was just these two, right?
I think it's just those two, but I mean, two great films.
Like Randy Quaid's an interesting character, a guy I always really liked. I mean, obviously, Cousin Eddie in the National Lampoon Vacation movies. He's in the first one and the third one, and he's in Vegas Vacation. He's not in the second one.
No,
but like he is iconic in Christmas Vacation. Like he makes that movie what it is. Like, he's so funny. And then, 96 was a great year for him. And then I forgot to look up his filmography, but I believe, I think someone tweeted about him the other day. Like he hasn't like been in a movie in 10 years. Like he's been off the grid for a while.
You know, I swear he almost got arrested or was getting arrested in Maine.
Yeah, I think they fled. Didn't they flee the country or something like 10, 12 years ago? Like he and his wife or something?
Yeah, he did something, and I swear he announced he's going to run in this recall election in California now too. So he's had an interesting last couple of years. I've not kept up with him though, to be honest with you.
Interesting's a mild word.
Just Google a photo of him nowadays.
But back in 96, I mean, he has a pretty bravura, incredible moment at the end of Independence Day. Would you say? I mean, he really saves the day at the end.
No, he's a fantastic part of this film.
I think we can spoil this movie.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
If someone's like, wait, don't spoil it. Be like, okay, this one, I feel like you should have watched by now.
Yeah.
Unlike all the, really popular big films of 71 that I'm talking about now. Those we haven't seen. Independence Day. So this came out July 2nd, and I believe at the time, was it the biggest opening weekend ever at that point? Like I feel like it probably was. I don't know. I mean, Jurassic Park, I think had a big opening, but that was 3 years before. So I think this probably would have been the biggest over 6 days or whatever it was. Like everybody and their grandma went to see this opening.
Oh weekend. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I saw it in all the theaters at that time were older, right? It was the old
Yeah.
Century theaters, they were barely slanted, right? Barely sloped, and I'm pretty sure I had to sit in like the back row, and I sat on top of the back of my seat to like see over, because it was almost like the back row almost went down or
Yeah.
something.
I remember those theaters in the 90s where if you were a kid, like if you didn't get the right seat and there was no slant, it was like straight on, and you would get a tall guy with a hat on in front of you and it was over.
Yeah. And like I think I'm pretty sure Independence Day, I think we even went early on, couldn't get in, it was sold out, and then went back again and like got into a later, like we bought our tickets for like a way later showing, because like it was sold out all that day. So
Do you remember how many times you saw it in the theater? I think I saw it 4 times in the theater over like 3 or 4 months. I think I saw it 4 times.
I think I saw it twice, but I did have a lot of the action figures as well.
There were action figures.
Oh yeah, I still have them. Actually, I should have brought them for this. I have them. I took them down 2 weeks ago. I took all my old toys out so my son could check out my old toys, and I had 3 Independence Day aliens in there still.
Oh, okay. The aliens. There wasn't like a Bill Pullman action figure.
Oh, I'm sure there was. I just had the aliens. I had 3 of the aliens.
No Vivica Fox action figure.
No, but that'd be interesting.
So one thing I love about this movie to this day, it's still just a little bit pre everything CGI. So the explosion scene, which is probably like the most famous sequence, what is that, like 5 or 6 minutes?
Yeah.
Of like, we're like everyone's wondering what are these aliens gonna do? They go up there, they got the like they're partying, they're like, yeah, hey, everything's great, welcome, and then just annihilation. And that sequence looks great to this day, apart from a couple little shots, because of the models. It's model work, and they're actually like exploding models, and so it looks great as opposed to what you see today.
Yeah, all that miniature work, and it's like you watch it and you know what they did, how much effort and time and detail they put into it, and it's still, you watch that stuff and then you watch some of the modern stuff and you wish they would go back to some of these old school techniques, because it's so noticeable. Even the best CGI today compared to that old model work, it just, especially when an explosion's involved, it's just, the explosion looks so much better when it's a real explosion.
And even the CG work, I mean, I'm assuming towards the end, like when they're actually like, infiltrating, the alien space and everything, like I feel like that stuff also holds up really well today. It looks really nice. And because again, I don't think it's all just wall to wall CG. I think there's a mix of different things that they're using, and you can tell.
Yeah. No, I definitely, you can tell it's model work, and that's the big details, because you get, a modeler can sit there and put tons of details into it. So, I mean, Independence Day is interesting, because I remember it was a cultural like phenomenon too. I remember Jeff Goldblum would be on TV on like afternoons or evenings, and he'd be hosting like a UFO sighting TV show, like all of a sudden like sent the cast into like, ooh, they're an expert now because they were in Independence Day. It was everywhere.
And Jeff Goldblum, he was famous in 1993 in Jurassic Park for saying "must go faster," and then he says it again in Independence Day. And I'll never forget sitting through The Lost World Jurassic Park in May of '97, waiting for him to say it again, and he doesn't. There's literally a scene where they're like trying to outrun the velociraptors. I think he's holding like his daughter's hand, and he doesn't say it. How is he not saying "must go faster"? I thought it would just be in everything he did, like up until today, like every movie, even if it's like a slow drama, like it had to be in the scripts.
That would have been awesome. Oh man, they could have thrown it into everything. They could have done it in Thor. They should have done it in his little Disney Plus show he had. That would have been perfect.
That's the title of it, "Must Go Faster."
Yeah, "Must Go Faster," and it's Goldblum. Must go faster.
Yeah. So anything else you remember about Independence Day I mean, I love the part where they go to Area 51, because I remember like as a kid, I was obsessed with like aliens and UFOs, and I had heard of Area 51 and it's off limits, can't go there. And then for this movie to take us there in this version, I thought was really cool. And you go down and you meet all the scientists, and what comes of that whole sequence is fun.
Yeah. Wasn't Natalie Portman in this also? Wasn't she the daughter?
She was the daughter in Mars Attacks the same year.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
It was that other the
It's
other
I
actor.
believe the
Oh,
daughter
Rachel
of the
Cuckoo.
daughter of the president in Independence Day, isn't it Mae Whitman, who has gone on to have a career? She was like a
Oh,
little
is it?
girl at the time, Mae
I
Whitman,
get
who's been on
confused
a
with
bunch of shows.
all the daughter characters from the mid '90s.
Natalie Portman was in like the other Alien movie of '96,
Yep.
Mars Attacks, which is more kind of goofy. And I'm actually doing, I think that's the episode. I'm doing an episode as like a guest to talk about Mars Attacks later this year for another podcast. They had a list of like 6 or 7 films, and I was like, "Ooh, Mars Attacks would be fun to
Yeah.
revisit that," because I don't really remember that. I remember seeing it in the theater. I liked it. I think I watched it one more time. It's been at
Yeah.
least 20 years. Like I vaguely remember like the crazy big cast. You had like Jack Nicholson and Glenn Close and Portman and all
Yeah.
these great people, but I don't really remember it that much. So I'm excited to watch that again. But I
That'll
think
be
Independence Day is the better one, and that's the one that
oh
everybody
yeah.
saw. I think if Mars Attacks had come out in '95, maybe it would have had a better shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Independence Day was great. The 3 act structure is really, really well made. You know,
Yeah.
there's the before, the aftermath, and then the
Yeah.
retaliation. You know, that
Mhm.
structure of the film was just really worked well, and how everybody comes together at the end. You know,
Yeah.
all these separate stories, and they all tie together for the
Mhm.
finale. And so I
Yeah.
think that's
It's
really what.
long, right? Isn't it 2.5 hours? But it doesn't feel
Oh
like
yeah,
it.
no, it doesn't feel like it at
You know,
all. You have so much
some
going on.
2.5 hour movies really feel it. This one, I feel like it speeds by, and as you say, it's got that nice react structure. Most of the main principles are separated, and then
Yeah,
in the last 30-40 minutes they all kind of come together, and Bill Pullman has that great iconic speech.
you know, I was just thinking.
Today we
Okay,
celebrate our Independence Day.
do you remember? And I don't know if this is true or not. This is totally just. I'm trying to remember. So I remember I read like the junior novel of it after it came out. Okay,
Okay, I never read them.
so they had that, and I believe at one point, was it ever at some point going to be rated R? Because I remember specifically, I
Never.
thought it was going to be R, and then they switched to PG-13. But there was one thing that they had in it was like the book adaptation was all the same except for one section where the part with the what was it with the Will Smith's wife, that character, and when she's like escaping like through the like rubbish, and she gets like attacked, and she shoots like fireworks, and they like blow somebody up, like. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that was in like the junior novel, but it was like the one thing that was not in the movie. And I was like trying to vaguely remember, like, was it ever supposed to have been rated R?
There might have been a time where maybe they submitted it to the MPAA and it got an R. That might have happened,
Yeah.
but I cannot imagine a movie of this size they would have ever thought of doing that.
Yeah, anticipated it to be R, but
like
got an R.
I think the studio, when they were like, okay, this is going to be our big early July release, like they're not going to make this rated R.
Yeah.
Especially back then. I feel like now you can get away with R-rated big movies more than you could 25 years ago. Like if you wanted kids to come, like in '96, you had to get a PG-13.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know, even though, you know, we could always find ways to sneak in, right?
Yeah. Oh.
Buy a ticket for Kazam instead and go see Independence Day.
Yeah.
Which I saw came out in July. I'm like, oh, I have never seen that.
Yeah.
Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal, the same year as Space Jam with Michael Jordan.
Ooh. I remember seeing Kazam and being extremely disappointed with that film.
After Independence Day, you went to see Kazam and you were like, it's just not quite as good.
It's just not, yeah, it wasn't what I wanted.
So anything else? So I mentioned Must Go Faster. I like Will Smith's line, "Welcome to Earth," punch. I mean, it's a little cheesy.
Oh, it's awesome.
Along with the dog at the end of the explosion sequence when she's Vivica Fox is in that one hallway where, you know, there's like hundreds of people running for their lives and she's the only one who notices the door. And she's the only one that goes in there, and then she's screaming for the dog, Boomer, and then like that shot looks really bad of the dog like leaping over the car as it explodes.
Yeah.
But it's still fun. I don't know. So like it needed like that sequence is so intense. Like it needed like one more little button at the end. And I thought like the dog jumping over the car. I mean, it makes sense. It just looks really dumb.
Oh yeah. Nope. I remember that shot very specifically.
Isn't it slow motion? He's like, gee,
yeah.
And then you just see the car behind him explode. And then she just like, and then does the door even shut? Like wouldn't the fire go into the hall?
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
And she's fine. We cut to Vivica Fox the next morning. And
all the buildings exploded and were completely leveled to the ground, but that doorway was a safe bet.
Or how about the explosion of the White House, which is so famous, like that shot of the White House
Oh yeah.
exploding, and then like it cuts to like the Air Force One like going off, and the fire's literally like nipping at the back of it.
Yeah.
Like they were like 3 seconds away from all dying and exploding, but they just made it.
Oh, it's
That's
just brilliant.
that's what the movies are for. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, my memories of this movie are all positive. I mean, I don't really have anything negative to say about the movie 25 years on. As I said before, I think the model work holds up really well. And I want to say by 97, 98, almost everything was just CG. I feel like this might have been the last really big release with just, a lot of models and not all CG,
Yeah.
right? I
It was
mean,
in that awkward phase though where CG was still very shiny. Like they were good at
yeah.
they're good at certain things, but if
Mhm.
there was a lot of really bad CGI around this time.
Any shot of a movie in 96, 97 where like the shot is purely CG, it looks really bad now. It probably looked bad then, but like the airplane hitting the water at the end of Air Force One, which came
Right.
out in summer of 97, that shot is horrible.
Oh, it's absolutely horrible.
It's
The
like
physics are all wrong.
maybe they should have just like shown like a real plane, and then you just hear it hitting the
Yeah.
water. Like I don't know if we need to see it in full. It just we weren't quite there yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything else to say about Independence Day, the biggest movie of the summer? Yeah, I can't believe that was 25 years ago. I feel like it's like 18 or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Like 25 years. Oh my god, we're getting older.
Seriously.
When I'm sitting down to record the 50th anniversary episode of Independence Day, that's when I know
Yeah.
I am officially in great grandfather territory. No, I don't know. So yeah, so let's talk about the other major films of summer of 96 going from May to August. So, I was looking at the schedule. I was like, I wonder if was this the first summer of movies that started before Memorial Day? I want to say before 96, the first big summer movie came out the last weekend of May. But,
Yeah.
when Twister came out May 10th, came out earlier in May. And ever since the summer of 96, we would always get a big release at the beginning of May. And that
Mhm.
didn't change until I want to say Avengers Infinity War in 2018 when they released it like April 25th or whatever it was. And I remember reading that news. They had bumped it up a week to like April 24th or 25th, whatever it was. And I went, you can't release it in April.
Yeah.
You're going to lose money. Oh, okay. No.
Yeah. Joke's on you.
It didn't matter. I think they were at a point with the franchise at that point. They could have
Oh yeah.
released it,
They could have released it
any day of the year, and it wouldn't have mattered.
January 3rd on its middle of a blizzard, and they'd still have success.
But I was just so programmed over 20 plus years, like all the movies that would come out like weekend 4, weekend 5, whatever, like at the end of April were always like the little movies that the studios were dumping.
Mhm.
And then May 1st and on, we'd get some bigger stuff. Like if you went to the theaters at the end of April, you weren't going to see much.
Yeah.
So that's kind of changed. But I want to say before 96, like I think the summer movie season began at the end of May, not the beginning of May. But in 96, we get Twister on May 10th. And I loved that movie when it came out. What a blast.
Mhm.
CG effects probably don't hold up as much now. But did you see Twister in a theater?
I did. I specifically remember seeing Twister again back at the theater next to the Pepper Mill there, the old Flat Century.
Not the greatest screenplay. It's kind of hokey, like
Oh.
Bill Pullman, Bill Paxton. There's two of them. Bill
Yeah.
Paxton needs to get a divorce from Helen Hunt, right? So he's got a new girlfriend played by Jamie Kurtz, and he goes to see Helen Hunt on one of her new expeditions, and he just can't get her to sign that paper, Brandon.
Yeah. Well, she's very busy.
Like all he needs is her signature, and he's out of the movie, but he can't quite get it.
Well, the twisters keep popping up. It's a big problem. And the other big problem is the bad guys in the black cars. They keep showing up too.
Yeah, Cary Elwes is fantastic as the bad guy in Twister, and he meets his end in a very fantastic way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember I love the end where they're trying to outrun the giant tornado. Even at 11, I'm like, I don't know if I buy this.
Yeah.
but I am a huge, I was a huge fan of Speed at the time, and that director Jan de Bont, this was his second film. He directed Twister, and then he directed the infamous Speed 2 Cruise Control the following year, and then he kind of disappeared after that. But he had two big hits in a row. He had Speed, and then 2 years later he had Twister. And I mean, that was just exciting. I remember I saw it with my whole family, and I wasn't sure what to expect from it. And I remember it was a lot of fun. And that's another one. If it's on TV, I'll watch it for half an hour. I love the scene where they're at the drive-in and they're showing The Shining of all movies, and then the Twister comes in at night, like tears away the drive-in movie theater, and they're all hanging on for dear life. And that's the part where Bill Paxton's wife to be is like, "Get me out of here."
Yeah.
I think I'm done. But that's the movie that introduced me to the Goo Goo Dolls, one of my three favorite bands. One of their songs was on the soundtrack for Twister.
Oh.
Long Way Down, I think it was called. And then I loved that song so much I bought their album. That was the first album that was not a soundtrack.
Interesting.
That I bought at age 11. And I've loved their music ever since. And then I went on to, I believe that summer I wrote like 5 short stories about nature. So I was like, okay, Twister's already done. So then I did like Hurricane, Tidal Wave. I wrote like a series of short stories.
We were all like weather experts after Twister came out. Because again, it was one of those ones, it was such a big movie that all of a sudden there'd be a bunch of those specials, because they were really into specials in the 90s. Remember, something came out, it was like, oh, well, we're going to have a bunch of the real life Twister. It'd be on like a Saturday night or something, you know? And then we were all experts on tornadoes immediately after that movie.
Yeah. And then there was a ride based on that. What kind of a ride at Universal Studios, Florida? I don't think it ever went to Hollywood, called Twister Ride It Out.
We went on that.
It took over. Yeah. It took over the Backdraft one. It's kind of the same idea, but it was a tornado instead. So very windy.
I have to imagine that's gone these days, right?
I believe. Yeah. So it's gone. It was there for a while. I think it was there for a long time.
Yeah.
And R.I.P. Bill Paxton. That's crazy to think he's not with us anymore. Like he died really young. He was like 60.
Oh yeah. No, that was awful.
That was horrible. Like he's fantastic. One of my favorites. I miss him.
That was out of the blue.
And he's really great in this.
Yeah.
All right. The other big film release of May was Mission Impossible, a franchise that is still going strong to this day. Did you see the original Mission Impossible in the theater?
I did. I remember seeing this one in theater because my dad wanted to see it. So this was a family one. I remember I liked it. And I'd even watched FX at the time, used to show reruns of the old original series. So I'd already watched the original series. I remember I liked Mission Impossible, but I was also upset with the first one. I was, again, being at our age, I was a little confused.
Didn't make any sense.
Yeah, the whole like, wait, the knock list, like what, like it was confusing. And then the twist was extra confusing. But I also remember John Voight's character, he was playing Jim Phelps, ended up being the villain. And to me, that was like, it very offended me because he was playing the, hero of the TV show, ended up being the villain of the movie. I remember I was like really upset about that. And I was like, what garbage, man. You can't make the main guy from the show be the bad guy. But, either way, I'm fine with it now. I mean, the recent Mission Impossibles are fantastic. That's a weird franchise that actually gets better the more they do it.
Yeah, I feel like the one that's closest to the original series, right, is the first one. Like now it's almost like a Fast and Furious kind of thing. Like it's just huge spectacle of insanity. Whereas the first one is, it has action scenes and some moments that are big and like that explosion at the end. But it's I feel like the first one's a quieter action film than the other ones. I mean, the third one is it's kind of laid back. I mean, there's not as many big spectacular stunts in the third one, I believe directed by J.J. Abrams. But after that, once we get to Ghost Protocol and then the rest of them, they've really gone crazy big.
Yeah. And
aren't they shooting 2 of them back to back? If I want to say.
Yeah, they are.
So Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is going all out with he's got Top Gun 2 coming out, I believe in November, and then starting next year, 2022, there's going to be 2 Mission Impossibles. But I really liked Fallout. That was good. The one with Henry Cavill, I believe that was 2018. So that would have been the 6th film.
Yeah. What was the 5th one? I remember I love them all.
5th one, was it called Rogue Nation?
That's right.
2015. Yeah. I agree with you that they've gotten better, and they have to get better because otherwise people will stop going. They have to get bigger and bigger and crazier.
Yeah, exactly.
But for a while, it was like, oh, every 4 or 5 years, we'll get a new one by a different director, and that director will bring a new style to the film. Like John Woo, he brought something totally different to the second one than Brian De Palma gives to the first one, and J.J. Abrams and Brad Bird directed the fourth one, I want to say, Ghost Protocol. And then I think we've had just the same guy direct like the last four.
His name McQuarrie. They call him McHugh and all.
Christopher McQuarrie, right?
Yeah.
So he's been just I think Tom Cruise just locked him down.
Tom Cruise loves him. They have in all the interviews, Tom Cruise just they work really well together.
Aren't they going to space at some point?
Probably.
Like Tom Cruise is going to actually go to real space to shoot something.
They haven't confirmed if that's for Mission Impossible, though. They keep saying it might be a different film, but it's probably going to be Mission Impossible.
Yeah. All right. So the other films of May, you mentioned Flipper. Was that before we started recording?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. I was looking at. There's a lot of kids' movies.
Yeah,
I remember all of them. Okay, so Flipper's in there. I don't remember a single thing about the movie.
I never saw Flipper.
I definitely saw it though.
I'm surprised my mom wasn't like, let's go see Flipper. Like, nope, didn't happen.
I remember not liking it. That's all I remember.
In 2006, the summer of 2006, I interned on a movie in what was it, Spokane, Washington, and for a few weeks the director that they had hired for that movie was the director of Flipper. Nice. His name was, what was his name, Alan something, and I remember like having dinner with him one night, and I looked up his IMDb, and he had directed The Crush with Alicia Silverstone and Carrie Elwes from '93, and he had directed Flipper with Elijah Wood and Paul Hogan. And so I asked him about like Flipper, and he had all these great stories. I remember he said it was really, really hard shoot, and he wanted to make it a little bit more PG-13, but it's got to be like for kids. like who hires the guy who directed The Crush, which is like this Fatal Attraction style teen flick? I believe that might have been rated R, if not a hard PG-13. Who thinks to hire that guy to direct Flipper? I don't know. And then also in May, we got Spy Hard, and we can't not mention, Brandon, The Arrival with Charlie Sheen.
Oh, yeah.
Which also had aliens, so that would have been right before Independence Day. And I remember liking it at the time. I have no memory of it. I can't think of a single scene, but I know I saw it.
I did not see that one in theaters. I saw it at some point on TV.
Yeah.
And I don't remember anything about it.
I think I gave it 3 stars. Like, I liked it. But then I think once Independence Day hit, any thoughts of The Arrival were just gone, because Independence Day was a brand new kind of spectacle action movie that was unlike anything we'd seen before.
Yeah.
Anything else from May?
You got Dragonheart on there. Do you guys remember that?
Dragonheart.
Come on, Dragonheart. We're talking about Quaid. We've been talking about the other Quaid now. We're just talking about this Dennis Quaid.
Dragonheart
was extreme. I saw that one multiple times in theaters also.
I did not see that in a theater. I don't know if I've seen it. I have vague memories of some of it. I think might have seen it at some point, but I did not see it in a theater.
Sean Connery was the dragon?
Sean Connery was the dragon. I remember that. I remember that was interesting. And I don't know what it was about it. That summer was just so packed. Every weekend there were like 2 films I wanted to see. And Dragonheart, I think, just slipped through the cracks.
I just remember at the time the dragon looked great for a mid-90s CGI dragon. It was like, oh, that's pretty good. You know, I have not seen it since. It's probably hasn't aged great, but
Dragonhearts. I'll have to take a look. I'll have to take a look for its 25th anniversary.
I remember because I
even did, you know what? I even did, every year I pick an actor and I watch all of their movies in chronological order. I did Sean Connery in 2018. Yeah. And I think I skipped Dragonheart because it was just his voice.
He's in it a lot.
So I was like, I don't have to watch that one. I had to rewatch The Rock for the 80th time, but I did not watch Dragonheart. So that takes us to June of 96. Some big releases in June, starting with, as I just said, The Rock. Did you see that in the theater, The Rock?
Maybe my Saving Private Ryan comment at the beginning was correct, because
The Rock was rated R.
I don't think I was allowed to see rated R movies until we got into middle school more. I don't think I was allowed, because I remember my parents seeing it. I remember them saying I couldn't see it. So
Okay.
I feel like I didn't get to see R-rated films yet.
Yeah,
I've
we
seen it
were
a
summer of
ton of times since.
96. Summer of 96 was before sixth grade. We were in between fifth and sixth grade.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because we were, yeah.
And
Okay.
back then, sixth grade was not in middle schools, right? Like I
Right.
never, I think in the 90s, middle school, at least that I knew of, was seventh and eighth grade.
Right. Right. Okay. So that makes sense then. Yeah. I was like a year away from getting to see R-rated films.
So my story of The Rock is I didn't see it opening weekend. The next weekend was Father's Day. On Father's Day Sunday, my dad and I went to go see The Cable Guy. I mean,
Ooh.
my love for Jim Carrey was at an all-time high in 96. I mean, that's coming off a string of Ace Ventura, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Batman Forever, and Ace Ventura 2. Ace
Yep.
Ventura 2 was a letdown for me at the time. I still don't think it's that great. but
Yeah.
but I still was really excited for a new big Jim Carrey summer movie. And so we waited till that Sunday afternoon. And I'm like, Dad, we're going. And I'll never forget sitting there watching The Cable Guy. I think we laughed a couple times at the beginning, and then the slow realization set in that this is not the movie that we were
Oh,
expecting.
like not even
And
fun
it's
at
a movie
all.
I appreciate now for what it is, but at the time we were programmed, right?
Yeah.
Every new Jim Carrey comedy has to be Ace Ventura. And
Yeah.
that's not what this is. It's like this really dark comedy, and he's playing a psycho, and it's not very funny on that level. And so I just remember us just like, oh my God. And so we walked out of the movie and we looked at each other like, that was really, really, really bad. Not to say that it's a bad film. It's just not what we expected it to be.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad looking at me like, we got to make this right. We got to make this right. So let's go see The Rock. I think The Rock will be a lot of fun. And The Rock was a blast, and it made everything good. We had a nice Father's Day after all.
Oh, that sounds good.
And so yeah, that was an interesting double feature. I think we had to drive to another theater. I don't think it was at the theater we were seeing The Cable Guy. And I think I don't remember if I knew what The Rock even was. I don't even know if I had seen a trailer or anything. I think I just knew Sean Connery was in it from James Bond. That's like all I knew.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still think that's the best Michael Bay movie. Like if I have to pick a favorite Michael Bay movie, that's the one that I like the best.
Well, it's probably the most consistent. Maybe
It's Nicolas Cage.
continuity.
Nicolas
Yeah.
Cage, right at the beginning of his like action movie phase, he had just won an Academy Award for Leaving Las Vegas. This was like his first kind of like big action film that he would go on the next year to be in both Con Air and Face Off, two other movies I love.
Yeah.
Are fun. And then yeah, and The Rock, Ed Harris is the bad guy. Sean Connery, I want to say, thinking about his filmography in the 90s, he really hadn't had a hit movie in a long time. He had a string of films from like 91 to 95. It was just one flop after another, like 5 or 6 of them. And The Rock was like his last really big movie before his retirement a few years later. The Rock kind of put him back to the A-list, at least for a short while. And he's fantastic in it. The action scenes are great. That car chase is fun. Like actually going to Alcatraz, the island, and the last 30, 40 minutes is a lot of excitement. And it's not overly flashy like editing that Michael Bay is known for. At the very, first couple films he made, it wasn't quite as nauseating. Some of the later stuff. So you didn't see it till video or much later?
I feel like I definitely saw it on video. I mean, I saw it when I was young. It wasn't much longer, but I definitely didn't see it in theaters.
Okay.
I remember people talking about the green smoke and all that stuff early on and like describing it to me, and I was like, what were you watching? Like when you just say it out loud, it makes no sense.
Are you talking about the beginning when that guy like gets like the boils on his face and dies, like that green?
Oh yeah. Don't you have to stab? Did he have to stab himself in the heart or something at one point too, or something?
Yeah. No, it's got some iconic lines. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's not a movie that I revisit very much, but like I would watch it. It's a good time. Did you see The Cable Guy in the theater?
I did, and I had the same experience where we walked out expecting, it was. I'm pretty sure it was advertised as an Ace Ventura comedy, and so we all go in there, we come out, and we're like, "What was that? That was not funny at all."
It's been a while since I've seen it. It's like the last half hour. There are no laughs at all. It just goes into pure like psycho territory.
Yeah,
and it's like dark drama almost by the end.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing funny in the last third.
No, not even close.
And you're like, what? And I remember reading at the time, like he was paid $20 million for that. And I was like, well, if they're paying him that much, it's probably going to be like Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
He would then come back with an Ace Ventura like film the year after that with Liar Liar,
Yeah.
which was like more of that style of broad comedy that we wanted from him. And then I want to say after Liar Liar, that's where his career goes in a whole lot of different directions. After
Yeah.
Liar Liar, we get The Truman Show and Man on the Moon, and he would do some more comedies like Bruce Almighty. But I feel like the Jim Carrey we knew and loved at that little, like that small window of time, it was kind of already over.
Yeah.
He only had a few.
No, he only did a few. Now he's Dr. Robotnik.
Now he's Dr. Robotnik. Is he really going to be in the sequel too? It's like that's what he's doing now. He's going to do that sequel.
I'm sure there's
I guess they're going to pay him
money
a lot.
involved. There's a paycheck, so yeah, he'll be there.
He was so great in Kidding on Showtime. I don't know if you saw the show Kidding. It had 2 seasons. I really enjoyed it, and he's such a great actor. We forget he's such a good actor. And Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind is another great movie. Yeah. And I would love for a great director to give him a fantastic part in something, even if it's for Netflix or he's got the chops. Like give him another great role. It's been a while.
It's like Adam Sandler. He'll do, he can if he wants. Does he want to?
My favorite performance. My favorite performance of 2019, Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. I just loved him in that. I thought he was great.
Yeah.
I've been waiting his whole career for a performance like that, and we finally got it. All right, so the following weekend, we get The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is like the most beloved of the Disney animated features, right?
Oh, yeah. I've been on the ride so many times at Disneyland. No, that was like the start of the end for Disney.
That was the beginning of the end of traditional animation, right? I would say that was the first one that really didn't hit very well. No. And it was the beginning of the end.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end for Disney Animation Studios until like the modern version that we have today. Yeah. But there was that phase from 96 to
2004. Well, yeah. Once we get in, so the traditional traditional animated movies stopped in 2004 with Home on the Range, which I've never seen. Right. And then they did one more. They did The Princess and the Frog in 2009. But everything else after 2004 is computer animation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so they had this crazy weird time, and it was so bizarre because the Pixar movies were just always fantastic and beautiful and great screenplays, and just, some of those are just like perfect from beginning to end, like Finding Nemo in 2003. And then around the same time, we're getting Treasure Planet, Atlantis, Brother Bear, Home on the Range. It's like, what is happening?
Yeah. Oh, they're all so bad.
Like, what is going on there? And yeah, so we had this window of golden animation. We were so lucky, right, to be in that period when we were kids of Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. Like, it was.
But it's funny because Disney does that though, because before that, Disney had another slump in the 80s where it's just like there's nothing.
Yeah, before Little Mermaid, it's Fox and the Hound, The Black Cauldron, The Great Mouse Detective, and Oliver and Company.
Yeah, it's like
just a dead zone. Like I mean, some of those movies are okay, but like. It's kind of weird. And then they have this just renaissance of a few years of these huge movies. And then Pocahontas is 95. That movie, I think, did okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
I feel like it was respected well enough. Hunchback, I think they were expecting more than it did at the box office. And I remember seeing it opening weekend. I was always excited for new Disney movie, right? I saw Lion King like 4 or 5 times in theater, and and then I remember just like sinking in, like, yeah, no, this is not one of the best. But at that same time, we were getting Pixar, right? So Toy Story came out at the end of 95, and that was revolutionary. Yeah. And then it took a while to get the next few. It took till 98 to get Bug's Life. But then right after that, we get Toy Story 2. And so it worked out. Like, thankfully, we had Pixar at the time to save us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's not a movie I hate or anything, but it's not one of the more memorable ones. Like, the songs are very memorable. The story, the villain was kind of creepy. I like the villain.
Oh yeah, no,
I like the look of it, like in Paris, and like the setting of that one is kind of cool, but
yeah,
just not quite as good as some of the others at the time. And then The Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy, which was a total blast. I think I saw that later. I think I saw it in like August or something, like at a smaller theater I didn't see it opening weekend, but I had talked to a few people who said this is what you wanted the cable guy to be. Like, this is funny. And I remember finally seeing it. I think I saw it with my dad, and we just howled through the whole thing. Like, it's really funny. And that's another comedy from '96 I like a lot.
I remember seeing that one I think I saw that multiple times in theaters also. Same thing. Enough fart jokes to keep an 11-year-old happy.
The sequel is terrible. The Clumps from 2000.
I don't know if I even saw that one.
The scene with the giant hamster in the Clumps, I will never forget. For all the wrong reasons. Let's see. The other two releases of June I put on here were Eraser and Striptease. As you said, Striptease was the movie every 11-year-old boy wanted to go see, but none of us could.
Nope. Never could. I think I saw it one day, a long ways down the road. I remember like, it was not a good, it was terrible.
Yeah, I think I finally rented it, or I sneaked it home or something. I want to say by '97 I had sneaked a VHS copy or something, and I just remember being really bored.
Yeah, no, it was not what.
Like, she takes off her clothes for like one scene, and you're like, oh, that,
Yeah, no, there's nothing to that film.
Demi Moore, she got her 12 million or whatever it was, and that was the beginning of the end for her for a while. Like, she had one more big movie after that in G.I. Jane. In '97 by Ridley Scott, and then she took a bunch of years off. I think to raise her kids or something. But Striptease, not one of the best. Eraser is a movie I forget about. Like, Schwarzenegger was still really big at the time. He was in T2 and True Lies, and his career was really hot in '96. And Eraser was good, just wasn't in the same league as some of his other big action movies.
Yeah, I would agree. It's one of those ones I saw it. I remember watching it in theaters, and I don't remember anything about it at all. I remember
some scenes. Doesn't he shoot? There's the same scene in Mission Impossible that is in Eraser. Like, both movies, there's a scene where they shoot like the glass, and in Mission Impossible, I think fish come out, and in Eraser, it's crocodile.
Oh yeah.
And Vanessa Williams is like the lead female in Eraser, like the famous singer.
Yep.
And James Caan, I believe, was the villain. And I remember he gets killed in a very fantastic way at the very end. But yeah, there's probably chunks of that film I have no memory of. So yeah, that one just didn't land as well as some of his others. That was also kind of the beginning of the end for Schwarzenegger. After that, he's in Jingle All the Way and Batman and Robin. Yeah. And it's after Batman and Robin that he takes a long break from filmmaking. It's like, don't take the break after that.
Yeah.
Like, come back with, and then he came back with a bunch of like forgettable action films like End of Days and The Sixth Day and All the Days until becoming governor of California.
Yeah.
What I love about Schwarzenegger is that he's governor of California, and then when he's done with that, he just goes back to making movies.
Yeah.
Like, as if no time had passed. and then everything he made after he was done with the governor job, nothing really landed after that. And I don't know if he's been in anything for a while. Well, he was in the Terminator reboots. He was in the newest one with Linda Hamilton, which I liked okay, but I'm just like, we need to let Terminator lie. I think we're done.
Yeah.
So that's anything else in June that you looked at on Wikipedia you wanted to mention?
Nope. I think that's it.
All right, July. So the first weekend we get Independence Day. We also get Phenomenon, which is a film that I visited the set of in Thanksgiving. I think it was like a weekend before Thanksgiving in 1995. It was shooting in Auburn, California, very close to where I was living at the time. And like, it was in the paper, like, oh, John Travolta shooting in Auburn. And so I went with a family friend, or no, it was my neighbor. That's right. It was my neighbor and his mom. And we went and we actually met John Travolta. We saw Robert Duvall shooting, and we walked around the set. It was kind of cool. I remember that day, really specifically. And it was kind of fun to talk to John Travolta for a minute. Like, he talked to us.
That's awesome.
And I was like, wow. And I remember I tried to take his picture and he went, no pictures. Which I now, 25, 26 years on, I'm like, yeah, I understand that now. At the time, I'm just excited. Even though I'm like, what in 95, what was I excited about with John Travolta?
Yeah.
I think I just knew he was a star. And that was the first experience I'd ever had. So let's see. So the other two big releases of July for me are A Time to Kill and Kingpin. Did you see either of those in the theater?
I saw Kingpin. I did not see A Time to Kill, but Kingpin, you gotta remember, was filmed in Reno, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So I remember the casting call for Kingpin. Like I was gonna go be a part of it.
Oh, you were going to be an extra?
I wanted to, but they had an age requirement on it, and you had to be like 18 or over. And I
Oh,
remember,
okay.
I'd have even been 16. I remember I was extremely disappointed. They wanted extras to fill in the back of like the final scene
Mm-hmm.
in the final tournament, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember like being really disappointed because I was trying to weasel my way into that one really, really, really hard. Like I tried a bunch of different things. I knew people in town who had like the hookup, and I still just like didn't get into it. But
You know, it's a really horrible job, Brandon, and an extra.
yeah, but
Were you ever an extra? Were you ever an extra on a movie?
No, no.
Yeah,
Well,
I was an extra.
Sets, but
And when I moved to LA, I did a couple like Saturday day jobs. I think I did 2 of them and never again. it was like 10, 11 hours and you just sit around with nothing to do. And this was back in like 03, 04, like where there wasn't like a whole lot to do on your phone yet.
yeah.
So I remember I did this one called My Big Fat Independent Movie in the fall of 03. And I was there for like 11, 12 hours. And I was actually like called onto the set, like to be in part of the filming, like 3 times over the course of like 20 minutes. So I remember driving away. I'm like, no more of that.
Yeah, right.
But that would have been, I could see you at age 11, like, oh, like a big movie. Like, I'm sure you knew who, like, at least Bill Murray was. Like, he was a part of
Oh
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I knew.
Ghostbusters and everything. And it was the directors of Dumb and Dumber. It
Yeah.
was their second movie. And so I moved to Reno in August of 96. So I remember seeing Kingpin. It came out the last weekend of July. I remember seeing it, and we were like 3 weeks away from moving.
Yeah.
I remember it being like, when it got to the Reno stuff, I was like, obviously interested. And I was like, oh, I got to go bowl there. And I eventually did. I remember bowling there. So that was cool. Kingpin, I didn't love it the first time I saw it, but I feel like that movie actually grows on you the more you see it. Like it's one of those where I thought it was good, not great. And now today, 25 years on, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like it's really, really funny. Like all the stuff with Lynn Shay at the beginning with the landlord.
Oh yeah.
Like it's got a lot of great jokes in it, and it's one of those like it's there's very few lulls in Kingpin. Like they're always trying to make you laugh, even the jokes that don't land. But so yeah, Kingpin was fun, and then A Time to Kill was a big deal for me. Why do you think that was, Brent?
Wasn't there a famous actress in it that you might like?
Yeah, first build. Like an
Yeah.
ensemble cast. I mean, if you watch the trailer for A Time to Kill, it had like 15 names. And the first name was Sandra Bullock. And I was like, I remember like, oh my God. And I remember watching it the first time being like, she's not in it enough. Like she doesn't come into the movie for like 45 minutes. Like it's a long time. And I'm like, I remember sitting there, I'm like, where's Sandra? But I think that movie still holds up. I feel like it has some issues now. I mean, you know, discussions of race has just, you know, the discussions of race were a different thing back in 96 than they are now. And so I haven't revisited that movie in a while. I feel like I would still like it, but very, very long. I think it's like 2 hours, 40 minutes, and just a huge cast of all these people, some of whom I like more than others. And, you know, Sandra Bullock's really good. It was Matthew McConaughey's big, you know, like film. How should I say? Like, he had been in some films before this, but this was the one that really put him on the map, A Time to Kill. I think he was just going to get a very, very tiny role. And he convinced the director, Joel Schumacher, give me Jake, give me the lead. And Schumacher took a chance, and it worked out. Like he did a great job, and obviously has had a big, big career.
Yeah.
Every movie that McConaughey's made, you love, right?
He's one of those guys. He comes in waves.
Surfer Dude. Surfer Dude is your favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, so A Time to Kill, that came out at the end of July. That, for me, kind of signified the end of the summer movie season. Like, we would go on to have some more, but that was kind of the last big release of that summer. You know, back in 96, I want to say August was also kind of a dead zone, right?
Well,
I feel like August is now, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy 2014. Now we still get like some big titles in early August. I feel like that didn't happen so much in the 90s. Like we would get like smaller studio films that maybe had some special effects. Like in August of 97, we'd get like Spawn.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a movie that opens June 25th, but it'll open like August 17th.
It was really based on like, I must have just been like with the school calendar or something. Yeah, you look at August.
Right.
And it's like I see them. There's a lot of kid movies though. You look
It
at
makes
August.
sense. It makes sense. A lot of the kids go back to school in mid to late August. It makes sense that you're not going to release a big movie that at that time.
Yeah.
And so usually like mid-August to like late September, it's just like a dead zone.
Look at 96. You've got The Stupids. That was for kids, right?
The Stupids, which is a movie my dad liked to refer to for years, never having seen it, as an example of a bad film. Well, hey, Brian, it could be The Stupids.
And Tom Arnold in
Tom Arnold,
fresh off of True Lies.
Tom Arnold had a big August of 96. He's in 2 films. He's in The Stupids and Carpool.
Yeah, and Carpool, which that was when he had First Kid by Disney. You had a Very Brady sequel, and
which is better than the original. Like the first Brady Bunch movie from 95 is okay. I think the sequel's funnier. The sequel has a better story.
The House Arrest.
It kind of has the same thing as Addams Family and Addams Family Values. Addams Family 1 from 91 is okay. The sequel, Addams Family Values with Joan Cusack as the villain, is hilarious, and I love.
You also have Jack with Robin Williams and you also had Matilda. Mm-hmm. It's like August must have been designed for like dumping kids movies or something.
Yeah, you're right. It is just a bunch of kids movies back to back, just over and over, all throughout August.
Yeah, just all in a row. Just like, hey, your kids are all done with your summer vacations, but you're home now. You're gonna need to go watch all these films.
Yeah. July wasn't as many kid films. I mean, we had Kazam, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Multiplicity. Did you see that with Michael Keaton?
Oh yeah.
That was a movie I expected to be really, really funny, and that didn't land either. Like it was okay. Like I remember going it with all my friends. I'm like, oh, this is really funny. Like he clones himself and you just more pay attention to the special effects in that movie.
It's all about the special effects. I remember watching that one at home later with the letterbox on the TV, and the amount of panning they had to do with it on like the TV version was the most annoying I've ever seen in any film. Watching the TV version, it's just like nonstop going like this because the way they filmed it, with them always having to be like segmented, like so they're not, can't be in the same shot because the special effect quality. Oh, it was awful.
Yeah. And speaking of special effects, there's one other July film we should mention, and that's The Frighteners with Michael J. Fox, which was directed by Peter Jackson, the last movie he directed before The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And it was a huge bomb. I remember still to this day, I remember seeing The Frighteners in the theater in an empty theater.
I remember watching
Nobody was there.
Probably at least a year or two later and absolutely loving it. Like I watched it over and over at home, but it was like one of those movies I'm like, where did this even come from? Like when did this even come out? I'd never even heard of it. I knew nothing about it.
It just crashed and burned. I mean, that movie made less than 10 million. I mean, it was it was like, I think it cost like upwards of 80 million to 100 million, something crazy. And then it was that was the last leading role for Michael J. Fox in a movie, I want to say.
Yeah.
He would start Spin City that fall or the next year, something around there. And I'm like, wait, how did Frighteners crash and burn that hard? And then 5 years go by and he doesn't make a movie and they give him The Lord of the Ring. You think the Frighteners would have had to be a hit movie.
Yeah.
Like Bob Shea at New Line Cinema is like, we're going to give you the 300 million you're asking for and you can make 3 films. Based on The Frighteners.
Yeah, and you can get the kid from Flipper and he'll star in it.
And get the kid from Flipper, the kid from The Faculty, Elijah Wood, The Good Son, and All Will Be Well. Now, his film he made before that, Heavenly Creatures from 94, which is the film debut of Kate Winslet, is fantastic. So I'm assuming when he was pitching Lord of the Rings to Bob Shea at New Line, he was showing them Heavenly Creatures.
Yeah, right.
Not that that's a special effects movie by any means. So I don't know. I feel like it's on the DVD or the Blu-ray, but I can't remember like how did Peter Jackson get the go ahead, the green light for the Lord of the Rings trilogy? Like, I mean, that took a lot of guts for Bob Shea and everyone at New Line to say, okay, you
Yeah.
go make your movie, make the whole thing over a year and a half, to shoot the whole
Yeah.
thing at once.
Go ahead and create a new visual effects studio while you're at it.
Like, what if Fellowship had just crashed and burned? It's like what I think about James Cameron is shooting, I believe, Avatar 2 through 5 at the same time.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
something crazy. Like he's doing, I'm like, well, I mean, Avatar was so huge. I mean, I'm assuming people will go in droves to the sequels, but it's like you're shooting number 5.
Yeah.
Like, what if 2 doesn't perform up to expectations?
Like nobody else knows where to go, you know? I mean, it was, that was kind of a closed story to me. Like, how do you keep going,
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned most of the titles I had from August. I mean, my memory of August is the last film I saw in a theater in Sacramento, Roseville area before I moved to Reno was Chain Reaction with Keanu Reeves. I remember that was like the last weekend I saw that with my parents, and then the weekend after that we moved. So so Chain Reaction holds a special place in my heart, even though it was a piece of crap. And I was like, oh, Keanu, this is not quite Speed. Not quite there. But Keanu would take chances on a lot of different kind of action projects in the 90s. And then one would work out eventually with The Matrix in 99.
Yeah.
But not all of them were great. And then also that month we had, in terms of adult fare, we had Escape from LA, which is kind of like the last big John Carpenter movie. He would go on to film Vampires and Ghosts of Mars. But like his last like big like summer film, I want to say, was Escape from LA, which was a 15 years later sequel to Escape from New York, which is a great movie with Kurt Russell, one of his earlier films. And then, it's just kids' movies. Matilda, Jack, a very Brady sequel, The Stupids.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, what was the first film I saw in a theater after I'd moved to Reno? I can't remember. Like, it would have been around late August, early September, probably. I know by September, like, I was seeing everything in Reno, but like, I think The Move was traumatic enough to where there were a few weeks I wasn't seeing anything. So I didn't see any of these in the theater, the kids' movies. I think I saw them all on video.
Yeah.
I know The Stupids I would not have seen in the theater. Anything else? Anything else on the August films?
I don't think so. Again, I remember them all. There's nothing. It's just funny because you remember them all.
Yeah.
But it wasn't anything. They're not ones I'm like. None of those kid ones are ones I'm going to show my kids. For example,
you're not going to show your kids Jack. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola, Brandon.
Oh.
Did you know that Coppola made Jack?
I did not realize he was still working at that time.
So Francis Ford Coppola had made Bram Stoker's Dracula in 92.
Yeah.
And then he took a 4-year gap, came back with Jack, and then he made The Rainmaker the year after, the John Grisham adaptation with Matt Damon and Danny DeVito. And that was kind of his last big movie. And then he took I want to say 10-year break. And then he did 3 more little indies. And that's it. Yeah. I think he was by the mid 90s more into his winemaking.
Yes. Obviously.
I think after Godfather 3, he was like, all right, I'm done. Okay. I think we're good. I always think that's a funny little piece of trivia that Francis Ford Coppola directed Jack.
That's so random.
Like, that is the most random movie for him to make.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'll direct this one. I mean, Robin Williams was huge in the 90s. I mean, I'm assuming a lot of directors would have taken a Robin Williams movie just to work with him. Like, that might have been it. He might have just been like, well, maybe I can do something with this. It'd be really, really fun to work with Robin Williams. I could see that.
Yeah. Oh, maybe
that was it. All right, so wrapping up here, Brandon, if you had to pick like your 3 favorite films from the summer of 96, what would your 3 favorites be? If you had to pick 3 to take with you to a desert island.
Any 3 of those. 3 to keep.
You have 3 to keep out of all of those titles between May and August. What are the 3 you keep?
You're going to want to watch Independence Day. You're going to keep that one. I kind of want to go watch it right now.
Independence Day.
I've not watched it in a while.
Probably be the top. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that film. Let's go. Oh, man. Next one. I don't know. What are your top 3?
I would pick pretty easily here. I would pick Independence Day, Twister, and A Time to Kill. Those would be my 3. I can't let a Sandra Bullock movie go, Brandon.
It's true. That's true.
That would not sit well with me.
I would go with Twister. I'm going to keep Kingpin because I I think
Yeah.
Kingpin's funny. I think it's gotten funnier as I get older, and I still love that it's like I
Mhm.
like that all the characters are trashy. I like that it's filmed in Reno, like when Reno was like at its height, when like that was like Reno's heyday.
Mhm.
And then
So
yeah,
you would pick Independence Day, Twister, and Kingpin.
yeah, I think I'm gonna go. Well, no,
Is there
I think
one you would trade
I'm gonna
out
go
for
Mission
Twister?
Impossible over Twister. Go Independent
Really?
Mission
Okay.
Impossible, only because Mission Impossible has gone on. It's gone. I like the franchise where Twister was like,
Okay. So
you know,
if Twister had had 7 sequels, you might have stuck with that one.
yeah, they're called Sharknado.
Twister 7. I would love for Helen Hunt to come back for a Twister sequel.
Yeah, what's she
Like
doing?
maybe like a tornado like killed her husband, played by Bill Paxton.
Oh,
And she's in like the sequel 25, 30 years on, she's like taking revenge on the
maybe.
tornado.
No, I know what happened.
Like shooting up the tornado.
She's getting a second divorce from another husband,
Yeah.
let's say, and she has to get a signature this time. Boom. But
It's her running around trying to get a signature.
Yeah, but they're like, but he's too busy because he's a volcanologist,
Yeah.
obviously, and like, oh, the things keep erupting, and then there's twist fire volcanoes, fire twisters and stuff. You know, it's gonna be.
I remember at the time I assumed because it was so successful they were going to make a sequel to Independence Day, a sequel to Twister.
Yeah.
And I mean, we got Independence Day 20 years on, but I was like, I remember in like 98, 99, I'm like, oh, they're not going to make sequels to those? Like those were huge.
Yeah.
Kind of surprising.
What was
I mean, I feel like Twister would have been an easy sequel. Like they could have come up with something for the sequel.
Oh, easily. What was Roland Emmerich's next big blow things up movie?
So Roland Emmerich's next film after Independence Day was Godzilla from May of '98.
That's right.
Which
That's right.
was a huge disappointment. I remember I was just like, oh man, I like the trailers were great. I was so excited. It was a Memorial Day weekend and when opening night, and I was like, no. Like I remember walking out like, yeah. So what did he do after that? I want to say he did like a Mel Gibson movie after that, like a smaller film, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. He did The Day After Tomorrow in 2004, and he did 2012. And it's funny, I put on maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I mean, pretty recently, I put on the movie Midway from 2019, which is like a World War II movie.
That's one of his.
And I'm starting to watch it. I'm like, God, this is just like the spectacle of this is insane. Who directed this? Michael Bay, Roland Emmerich. I look on my phone, Roland Emmerich, and I went, oh, it is Roland Emmerich. He has a style that you can just, it's hard for him. He did like a gay themed film. I want to say it was like, was it 2015 or 20? It was around Independence Day 2.
Yeah.
About Stonewall. He made like this like quiet like gay theme film, and it did.
Oh yeah, I see. It's called Stonewall.
He
directed The Patriot.
The Patriot. That's the film I'm thinking of. I was like, he did one with Mel Gibson. It was The Patriot.
He did White House Down.
White House Down. He definitely has a style. Like some of his movies are bigger than others, but he does not like to keep it quiet.
He did Eight-Legged Freaks. Whatever happened to that film?
Roland Emmerich? No, he directed it or produced it.
Wait.
Roland Emmerich did not direct Eight-Legged Freaks.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Okay.
He didn't. Sorry.
Did he make a film in between The Patriot and The Day After Tomorrow? Was there a film in between that? Directing?
Sorry, this is not in order.
I don't think he did.
He has one coming out next year called Moonfall.
Yeah, do you have the synopsis? I want to say a week ago on Twitter, someone revealed like the synopsis of his next film with Halle Berry, right?
Yeah.
And it sounded like a piece of work. I was like, oh my God, this guy will never stop making crazy movies.
A mysterious force knocks the moon from its orbit around Earth and sends it hurtling on a collision course with life as we know it. With mere weeks before impact and against all odds, a ragtag team launches an impossible last-ditch mission into space, leaving behind everyone they love and risking everything to land on the lunar surface to save our planet. Sounds pretty awful.
I don't understand it, Brandon. Like, has he made a film that earned back its money since 2012 in 2009?
No,
2009, I think that did okay.
they keep giving him more and more of it. I don't know. Maybe it makes it up in syndication or something because it just like, it'll be on
Maybe
TV all the time.
his films do better internationally,
Yeah,
but
that could be it.
I don't think Roland Emmerich is like, he's not like a James Bond or a
Yeah.
Marvel.
Maybe they're
He
easy to
makes
translate,
he
so
makes different
they do
kinds of
well.
stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
who knows?
His finest work will always be Independence Day for me. That's his
Really.
best film. Same with Michael Bay. That same summer with The Rock.
Yeah,
After 96, they peaked.
yeah.
All right, Brandon, this has been a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me for this special bonus episode of Film at 50. Anywhere our listeners can find you online?
No, I don't do anything. I work in a casino. You guys are more welcome to come to my casino if you hit up Reno.
Yeah, go to his casino in Reno. You can talk more about the films of summer 96. I
I
would
can
love to
talk.
do this again sometime. I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on some more films in the weeks and months to come. It's always great having you on. We've talked about lots of films on the Patreon page. We talked about The Witches and talked about Christopher Nolan's career. The Christopher Nolan episode is on YouTube as well. You can find it there. And Brandon was on the podcast a few months ago talking about the best film of 1970, right? Rio Lobo with John Wayne.
Oh yeah, we watched that.
I just watched his follow up to that called Big Jake, and I almost did it as an episode. And I went, Rio Lobo was so rough. I don't know. So I decided against it. And then I watched it like a week ago. I found a copy of it, and it was almost as bad. I was like, okay, dodged a bullet there. I'm glad I didn't have to research this movie and do like a whole episode about it.
Yeah.
I know there will be something good for John Wayne, even if it takes all his last movie from 76, The Shootist by Don Siegel, which is supposed to be great. I think I saw it a long time ago, but really strong film with Ron Howard and Lauren Bacall. So we will get to a strong John Wayne movie eventually. But even though neither of us like Rio Lobo, it's a really fun conversation. So go check it out. We dropped that episode in January of this year. So check that out. All right. Well, thanks for being here again, Brandon. Thanks to all of you for listening. We will catch you next time on Film at 50.